Hello, everyone, and a warm welcome to our webinar, Dollars and Cents, Maximizing Your Ad Spend for Insurance Agents. Before we begin, a few housekeeping items. For your questions, please type them into the chat or save them until the end, as we've left plenty of time for questions. Also, we've added a link in the chat to book a consultation with us to learn more about our highly effective digital marketing capabilities. Lastly, the presentation will be available via PDF after the conclusion of the webinar. Let's transition into introductions. So I'm Tom Evich, COO of Club Capital Marketing. My background is heavy direct marketing experience at large financial services companies, and I've actually been at Club Capital for a little over 1 year now. Chris?
Absolutely. Thank you, Tom. So I'm Chris Ferretti. I've been with Club Capital since the beginning, so about 6 years now. And as many of you know, we started the accounting firm specifically dedicated towards helping insurance agents. We know your numbers, we know your books, and we saw the opportunity to help you in the marketing space, given that it tends to be an agent's third largest expense.
Started out on mute. Hi, everyone. I'm Cody Ross, and I'm the digital marketing manager here at Club Capital. So I've been here for around 6 months, and I've been enjoying the process of helping our clients see the real-time impacts of their marketing dollars. My background in digital strategy allows me to adapt quickly and to ensure that our clients' marketing needs are not only met, but we also exceed their expectations. Today, I'm going to show you how to determine an ad spend budget instead of just picking an arbitrary number. And then we will discuss a variety of marketing metrics and the math behind getting you more conversions. So this is optimizing PPC ad spend for maximum ROI. So the purpose of this webinar today is to explain the process of optimizing PPC ad spend to achieve maximum ROI for our clients. I'd like to make a point before we get into everything here, and that is that our management fee at Club Capital is the same regardless of client media spend. So this means that any budget recommendations that we make are in an effort to efficiently optimize your campaigns, and they're not because Club Capital benefits in any way. By the end of this webinar, attendees will have a clear understanding of how to calculate and optimize their PPC ad budgets to get the best possible results. So pay-per-click stems from Google search results, and there are organic results, and then there are paid results. So today we're going to be talking specifically about paid results, which are the ads that show up in front of organic results. So whenever a user sees an ad, it will be an impression. So whenever this happens, you are not actually charged as an agent who is using Google Ads. You are actually charged whenever a client clicks on the ad. And whenever they click, they will either be clicking to call, which they will then call the agent directly, or they will get sent to a landing page that has the goal of typically getting a quote start for that client. Because advertisers are paying per click, that's where we get the concept of pay-per-click advertising. So from here, let's get into how your ad budget is actually spent and then calculating it. So depending on the number of clicks per day, you will pay a cost per click. So if you have a look here, you would see that in a low CPC, you would be paying roughly $8 per click. And then depending on the number of clicks per day, that's how you actually determine your budget. So say, for example, if you spent $8 and got 5 clicks, it would be $40. However, generally speaking, we would recommend that you get at least 10 clicks per day. And the reason for this is because you're giving Google more learnings so that it can effectively optimize your campaigns. You can think about it like trying to shoot a three-pointer. If you get 1 shot per day, it's going to be very hard to actually make a 3. But if you start getting 10, 15, 20 shots a day, you're likely to get into rhythm and make more 3s over time as you learn. The same thing applies here with Google and their algorithms. So looking at some budget examples here, with a low CPC of $8, you would be looking at 10 clicks a day, which would be $80 per day. Assuming that you have 20 days in a month where you're in office, that would be roughly 1,600 a month. And then looking here at a higher cost per click example where you're paying $20. So this will be in a more expensive market. You can think of these things like whenever you're paying rent, right? You wouldn't pay the same amount for an apartment in New York City than you would in a small house in, say, Wyoming, right? The same thing happens with cost per clicks. So it's affected by a variety of different things, including the demand and then also the income of different people within areas. So obviously, in the same sense that an apartment in Manhattan has very high demand, it would be very expensive, right? Whereas something in a smaller town in Wyoming obviously would have lower demand, and as a result, it would be less expensive per square foot. Looking at a higher CPC here of roughly $20, this would be averaged across the account, right? So there may be one click that is 30 because it's very high intent, and there could be another that's 10, but generally speaking, a higher cost per click would average out to 20 here. So you would be averaging $200 a day or $4,000 a month. So here are some other examples of a very high CPC at $25, and then what I would say is a more standard or reasonable CPC that we generally see within our agents, and then the recommended spend. So the reason why this is important is because it all affects conversion rates. So a high performing agent would be able to convert up to 30% of their calls. So what that means is if they were to get 100 calls, they would end up getting 30 people on the line for over 2 minutes who are very likely to get a quote. However, a low performing agent would be looking more at 14 calls out of the 100 that they get. And this is very important because as you optimize your campaigns over time, you can get higher to the 30 calls and getting a very high performing campaign from the same amount of clicks, if you will. At times, agents approach us and ask, well, what can I get with a low budget, right? Because we always want the best value for money, right? Because that's what intuitively we would think, okay, well, let's start small and see if we can get this to go bigger over time, right? And this has been a challenge that we face because if you look at the math here, it becomes very challenging, right? Have a look at this high CPC example at $25. So if you're spending $500 a month, that would be 25 a day, right? So that means that you would only be getting 1 click per day on average. So thinking this through, going back to my basketball analogy, you would only be getting 1 shot a day to try and make the 3-pointer, right? Assuming that you have a conversion rate of 15%, which is quite standard for our agents, then you would be getting 20 clicks a month, and that would lead to 3 conversions. In other words, you would be getting, you would be effectively quoting 3 people, right? If you look at a low CPC example, this is where most agents would be at, you're still struggling to drive significant traffic because you'd only be getting 2.5 clicks a day. Some days you may be getting 3, some you might be getting 2, but generally speaking, you would expect around 8 conversions per month. So this is the importance of adequate budget, right? Because even if you are doing great with your sales, if you're not getting enough volume coming in, then it's very hard to get these things to work. So you may be wondering, well, Cody, if I can't get it to work with $500, what's the point of all this, right? And the reason why Google Ads works, especially for specific agents, is because they use the correct budget and then the campaigns optimize over time. So if you were to spend the $2,000 over 20 days, you'd be at $100 a day, right? And that would give you 10 clicks a day using the average CPC of $10 that we used before. So from these 10 clicks, you would be getting 1 to 2 conversions a day, assuming the 15%, right? However, what's very important here is that as you continue to get conversions, Google is able to learn. Think about it like if you start making more and more 3-pointers, you'll start getting better over time, right? Whereas if you're just taking 1 shot a day, it's very hard to actually get somewhere with it, right? Whereas if you start practicing 10, 15, 20 shots, quickly you will see results. And that's the same with Google and their algorithms. They can quickly learn who is calling and which types of users are actually interested in purchasing insurance. However, if you don't give Google this data, it's very hard for the campaign to start working. So you may be wondering, well, I want to increase my budget, but how many conversions would I even get, right? So whenever you do start investing, we've noticed that our higher investing agents have a significantly higher conversion rate, which typically floats around 30%. So if you were to invest the $2,000, you would get 200 clicks a month, assuming a 30% conversion rate, which is quite reasonable, something that we have seen with our agents. You would be getting 60 callers on the line per month that are inquiring about your insurance products. Comparing this to the $500 here, you would only be getting 8. So while if you just increased it 500, 500, 500, if you did that over 4 months, you'd be getting 32 callers. But in 1 month, you can get 60 because you increase the budget within a specific period of time. Some things to keep in mind with this is that these 60 callers are people who actively search for insurance online. So that means that they looked up something like insurance near me, buy car insurance now, auto insurance online, etc. Right? So they're actively looking for your product. They're qualified due to our backend targeting system. So we have been working with Google to make sure that we're creating audiences of people who are interested in buying insurance products. And then we also identify and target our ideal client. So these are based on a variety of factors, including household income, age, etc. And this ensures that these leads are significantly more valuable than someone that you simply buy out of a call, like a pre-made call list. And then these are people who searched either for your brand or for an insurance product, and they called to contact you. So that's where the value comes in this. So you can see that by increasing your spend, you are also increasing conversion rate. And as a result, you will get significantly more qualified callers than if you just try to invest the minimum and see if it'll work. Does that make sense as a whole? So you may be wondering, well, what if I want to do 4 campaigns, or if I want to do more campaigns? Because a lot of people don't want to just sell car insurance, right? Or just sell renter's insurance. So in this case, you would still need to split this out with a budget for every specific campaign. So that would look like 2,000 for auto, 2,000 for home, 2,000 for small insurance, and then 2,000 for renters. So despite this, there is always the possibility to bundle campaigns. So there's always the possibility to try and do a variety of different cross-selling strategies. So for example, you could do 2,000 into auto and then cross-sell that person who calls into home insurance if they are interested in it. So that would be definitely a strategy that we use currently. And then you can also put one campaign so that you're getting all of the learnings, but then have different products within them. So Club Capital has a variety of different strategies that we use to try to get the best value for money out of the campaigns that we have. So you may be wondering, this is all great, Cody, but how do I determine my optimal ad budget? What's my CPC, or how does this all work? So you can see here, we use a geographical heat map, and these are different tools that we have within SEMrush. And so this provides graphical density of potential customers, and it allows us to do targeted ad placements. So from here, we can get a better idea of, how dense an area is, and then what type of competition there is in that area. So looking at demographic data visualization, we can also create charts that use Google Ads to go after different target audiences, different ages, user incomes, and their interests. So we can create different segmented audiences on Google Ads that can then target users who are more likely to convert. So these typically look like users who are either interested in purchasing insurance or interested in car insurance, or even users who are interested in purchasing a car, who are then very likely to purchase, right? Looking at location-based targeting, We can also target specific locations on the map. So depending on if there's 1 or 2 zip codes that we think would be more beneficial, or we can also remove zip codes where there may be high competition, but low ROI, right? So in short, at Club Capital, we have the tools and the knowledge to get this done. So on Google Ads, we use targeted ad campaigns that go after the right audience at the right time. So this maximizes our impact and improves your ROI. We also have different SEO tools such as SEMrush and Yext. So this allows us to conduct comprehensive SEO audits, track keyword positions, and analyze the competition. This also ensures that our strategies are data-driven and effective. And then we have industry-specific knowledge. So we've been working in the insurance industry for a long time. And as a result, we have experience with insurance agents and getting these campaigns set up that other agencies may not have because they don't have the experience with the keywords and then also setting up budgets that will work within this space specifically. Because it's very challenging where if you get a new client as an agency and you've never been in that space before, you have to do all of the analysis and you don't have any of the previous learnings. Whereas we can show our agents, hey, your conversion rate is very high compared to your budget, or it's very low and we're doing X to optimize it, right? So that's why our industry specific knowledge is very important. And it's one of the reasons why Club Capital has really stood out in this space. So to summarize everything that we went through today, it's very important to have an adequate daily spend. So it needs to be sufficient because that allows Google to find users who are more likely to actually convert. And due to the ways that Google is bidding now, typically marketers will be going after conversions. So as a result, you need to maximize those conversions from the start. Because just like the 3-point example, where if you start making a few shots, it gets a lot easier. But if you don't have those learnings, then it's very challenging to get these things started. So that's why it's very hard. While it is tempting to just say, I just want to dip my feet in and see if this works. If you feel that you have the right market fit, it's definitely worthwhile to try to optimize it as much as you can, both from an ad spend perspective and then getting that data so that you can improve your conversion rate over time, which is the second point here. The impact of conversion rates, right? Because as we saw earlier, if you have a conversion rate that's at 15%, you may be getting a couple decent calls a month. But if you increase your budget, which will consequently increase your conversion rate as Google learns, you will have a significant chance to really improve your conversion rate and get better leads on the line that will last longer and will be more interested in quotes. As a result, this will significantly impact your overall ROI. This links together with the necessity of the higher budgets that we mentioned before, especially if you want to do multiple campaigns, because each campaign has to have its own specific learnings, especially for its own specific markets, right? So as a result, you have to put the investment in for each specific campaign. However, if you do work with Club Capital, we have different strategies to get around this to help agents get the most bang for their buck, if you will. Finally, we have the tools to look at, demographic and geographical data. So looking at competitive density, the average cost per click in your area. These are different types of things that we can get before you actually start with us. And as a result, we can create a more efficient campaign and make sure that we're actually spending your ad dollars where it will work out the best. So by focusing on these takeaways, you can effectively optimize your PPC ad spend and achieve your maximum ROI for your business. So that's all from me. I believe we had a couple questions to go through. I hope this was helpful, and yeah.
Amazing, amazing. Well, let me just go through the questions that I've seen in the chat so far. So one question that came through is, what about a saturated market? So for example, agents in your territory, like 80 agents in your territory?
Sure. Yeah. So that's exactly what I was referring to with the the higher rent, say in New York City. If there are agents, whether they're in State Farm or in Allstate, Progressive, et cetera, they will all be bidding on these terms, right? So specifically looking at high CPCs, that is right, that they will drive up the price over time. Fortunately, at Club Capital, we also have different strategies that we can use. Generally, we can go after, there's a variety of different ways to approach this, right? If you're just completely getting outbidded, then you can use long tail keywords. So what that means is auto insurance may be taken, right? It may be $100 per click, and we may not be willing to pay that. But auto and I don't know, for example, cheap auto insurance for for
Students,
what's that? Yeah, for
for
students.
students, yeah.
Sure. Or anything that's a longer tail, that's something that people wouldn't look up as frequently, can come with a cheaper price, right? So they could be Toyota, like Corolla insurance for my, auto insurance for my Toyota Corolla. Just an example here, right? That keyword may be cheaper because there are less people that are going after it. So Club Capital also does that on the back end, where we look at different keywords that we can expand into over time, right?